The deep space exploration vessel, Wanderer's Echo, drifted silently through the uncharted nebula, its hull illuminated by the swirling cosmic gases that surrounded it like a living, breathing entity. Captain Elias Thorne stood on the observation deck, hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face reflecting the kaleidoscope of colors dancing across the void. 20 years in the Galactic Federation's Exploration Corps had left him with a quiet dignity and a growing weariness of bureaucratic politics. But his core principles remained unshaken: respect for all sentient beings, regardless of their origin or composition. "Captain," the comm system crackled. "Unit 734 requests permission to join you on the observation deck." Elias sighed internally at the formal designation. "Permission granted," he replied, turning as the deck doors slid open with a soft hiss. The being that entered could have easily been mistaken for a mobile rock formation. Standing approximately 5 feet tall, Unit 734, a KRYLL xenogeologist assigned to study the nebula's crystalline structures, moved with surprising grace despite an asymmetrical, jagged exterior. The silicon-based life form had no discernible facial features by human standards, just a cluster of sensory nodules embedded in what might generously be called its upper region. Multi-jointed appendages extended from its rough-hewn body, delicately manipulating a handheld scanner. "Captain Thorne," came the flat, monotone voice from the speech synthesizer embedded in what humans would call its chest. "The crystalline formations in this sector display unusual harmonic resonance patterns. I believe they warrant closer examination." Elias nodded, genuinely interested. "Tell me more." 734. "The name designation I have chosen is Xyler," the being corrected, emitting a low vibration that the captain had come to recognize as the KRYLL equivalent of clearing one's throat. "If you would be amenable to using it." "Of course, Xyler," Elias corrected himself. "My apologies. Please continue." For the next 20 minutes, Xyler detailed the complex crystalline structures they were discovering, explaining how the formations defied conventional physics and suggesting potential applications that might revolutionize shield technology. Elias listened attentively, asking questions that revealed his grasp of advanced concepts and genuine interest in the KRYLL's perspective. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Lieutenant Commander Rivera, the ship's executive officer. She barely acknowledged Xyler's presence, addressing herself exclusively to Elias despite the fact that the KRYLL was mid-sentence. "Captain, the science team has completed their preliminary survey and requests your approval for the next phase," she said, her eyes deliberately avoiding the silicon-based being. "Certainly, Commander," Elias replied evenly. But first, Xyler was explaining something fascinating about the crystalline resonance patterns. "Please continue." He nodded toward the KRYLL. Rivera's discomfort was palpable as Xyler resumed, the executive officer's posture stiffening with each passing moment. When Xyler finished, Elias thanked the xenogeologist sincerely. "Your insights are invaluable, Xyler. I like a full report on these harmonic patterns and how they might affect our shields if we venture deeper into the nebula." "Of course, Captain," Xyler responded, the synthesizer unable to convey any emotion, though the slight change in vibration frequency suggested something akin to pleasure. After Xyler departed, Rivera cleared her throat. "Captain, with all due respect, you don't need to humor it so much. The KRYLL aren't exactly known for their social awareness. It probably doesn't even notice." Elias turned to face her fully, his expression stern but controlled. "Commander, Unit 734, Xyler, is a highly qualified scientist whose expertise is critical to our mission. The fact that KRYLL's social structures differ from ours doesn't diminish their worth or entitle us to disrespect. Is that understood?" "Yes, sir," Rivera replied stiffly, though her expression suggested otherwise. Such interactions had become routine in the 3 months since Xyler had joined the crew. The KRYLL was largely avoided by the human crew members, who found its appearance unsettling and its communication style difficult to interpret. Whispered jokes about the walking rock or silicon brain were common in the mess hall, though never within earshot of the captain. The prevailing attitude in the Federation toward non-organic or radically different species like the KRYLL was one of thinly veiled prejudice. They were largely regarded as emotionally underdeveloped or socially primitive, despite their acknowledged intelligence. Elias had made it his personal mission to counter this perspective, not through grand speeches or formal reprimands, but through consistent, respectful treatment. He made a point of including Xyler in scientific discussions, acknowledging the KRYLL's insights, and occasionally sharing meals in the same space. Though KRYLL consumed a mixture of minerals that most humans found unappetizing to watch. Over time, this approach had led to increasingly meaningful interactions between them. Xyler began seeking out the captain specifically to share observations or ask questions about human behavior. Elias found the KRYLL's logical, precise approach refreshing, often leading to new perspectives on old problems. There was a clarity to Xyler's thinking that cut through the political considerations and social niceties that sometimes clouded human decision-making. The true test of their developing professional relationship came unexpectedly, 6 months into their mission. The Wanderer's Echo had ventured into a previously unexplored region of the nebula when sensors detected a rapidly developing anomaly. Captain, to the bridge. The urgent call came as Elias was reviewing reports in his quarters. He arrived to find controlled chaos, officers rushing between stations as warning lights flashed across multiple consoles. Status report, he demanded, sliding into the command chair. Chief Science Officer Takeda looked up from her station, face pale. Sir, we're encountering what appears to be a crystalline resonance storm. It's unlike anything in our records. The energy readings are off the charts. On the view screen, what had been a serene cosmic ocean now churned with visible waves of energy, jagged crystal formations materializing and dissolving like phantoms in the void. Can we navigate around it? Elias asked. Negative, Captain, the navigator replied. It's expanding too rapidly. Standard evasive maneuvers aren't effective. The storm seems to be anticipating our movements. Shields are down to 60% and falling, reported Security Chief Vasquez. The resonance frequencies are interfering with our harmonics. Elias tapped his comm badge. Bridge to Xyler. We need your expertise immediately. Seconds later, the KRYLL entered the bridge, causing several officers to glance up with poorly disguised disdain. The storm is a natural phenomenon, Xyler stated after briefly examining the sensor readings, but one that operates on principles similar to consciousness. It reacts to our shield frequencies as if they were an intrusion or a challenge. Can we escape it? Elias asked directly. Not through conventional means, Xyler replied. However, I believe I can calibrate our shields to harmonize with the storm's resonance patterns rather than oppose them. We would essentially become part of its song. Rivera stepped forward. Captain, with all due respect, that's pure speculation. We should boost power to engines and attempt to outrun it. Our engines are already at maximum, Vasquez countered, and shields are now at 40%. At this rate, we have minutes before complete failure. Elias made his decision. Xyler, what do you need? Direct access to the shield harmonics control system, the KRYLL replied. That's out of the question. Rivera protested. Regulation 47.3 clearly states that primary defense systems can only be operated by certified Federation personnel in emergency situations. Elias fixed her with a steady gaze. And Regulation 10.1 grants the captain full discretionary authority when the ship faces imminent destruction. He turned to Xyler. The system is yours. For the next tense minutes, the bridge crew watched as Xyler connected directly to the shield control system, the KRYLL's rocky appendages moving with surprising delicacy across the interface. The shields began fluctuating wildly, changing frequencies at a rate that seemed random to human observers. Shield integrity at 25%, Vasquez announced, voice tight. 15%, 10%. Just as it seemed the shields would collapse entirely, the view screen showed a remarkable transformation. The violent energy waves surrounding the ship began to flow around them rather than crashing against their defenses, creating what appeared to be a tunnel through the heart of the storm. "Incredible," whispered Takeda. "The storm isn't attacking us anymore. It's embracing us." Slowly, the Wanderer's echo glided through the crystalline maelstrom, protected by a bubble of harmonized energy that pulsed in perfect rhythm with the chaos surrounding it. 10 minutes later, they emerged from the far side, systems intact. A spontaneous cheer erupted from the bridge crew, though Rivera remained stone-faced. Elias turned to Xyler, who had disconnected from the control system. "You saved the ship and everyone aboard," he said simply. "Thank you. I merely applied appropriate principles of crystalline harmonics," Xyler responded. "The synthesizer is flat as ever." As the crew began damage assessments and course corrections, Elias noticed Xyler lingering near his command chair. "Was there something else?" he asked, quietly. "Yes, Captain," Xyler replied. "I would appreciate a private conversation at your earliest convenience." Intrigued, Elias arranged to meet the KRYLL in his ready room once the immediate crisis had passed. An hour later, they sat across from each other in the captain's private space, the nebula's colors creating shifting patterns across the walls. "What did you wish to discuss, Xyler?" Elias prompted. The KRYLL was silent for a moment, its crystalline structure emitting a low, almost musical vibration. Then, the speech synthesizer activated, but the voice that emerged was different, richer, more modulated than the monotone Elias had grown accustomed to. "Your logic transcends conventional social programming, Captain. You see structure, not surface. You have passed my test, human. Now witness my true form." Before Elias could respond, Xyler's rocky exterior began to vibrate intensely. Fine cracks appeared across the surface, spreading rapidly like a web. For one alarming moment, Elias thought the KRYLL was experiencing some kind of medical emergency. Perhaps the stress of interfacing with the ship's systems had caused internal damage. But then the outer layers began to fall away, crumbling to the floor like shed skin. What emerged from within left the captain speechless. Where the rough, asymmetrical rock formation had been now stood a being of breathtaking complexity. Xyler's true form was an intricate network of translucent crystals, arranged in an ever-shifting lattice that seemed to defy three-dimensional space. Each facet caught the light differently, refracting it into subtle colors that pulsed in gentle rhythm. Though still unmistakably alien, there was an undeniable geometric beauty to the form, a sense of perfect mathematical harmony that felt almost musical in its composition. The voice now resonated directly in Elias's mind rather than through the synthesizer, is what we truly are. The mental voice was melodious, multi-layered, like a chord played on an instrument of unimaginable refinement. Elias found himself rising slowly from his chair, hand half extended toward the crystalline being before he caught himself. I don't understand," he managed finally. "Why the deception?" "Not deception," Xyler corrected gently, the crystalline form shifting slightly as if to emphasize the point. "Protection, both for ourselves and for others. This is our resonant state, the true expression of KRYLL consciousness. But is also vulnerable, sensitive to disharmonious energies and frequencies." Elias struggled to reconcile this luminous entity with the awkward, rocky being he had known for months. Was his newfound admiration merely a response to the aesthetic transformation, a betrayal of his earlier respect for Xyler's mind, regardless of physical form? Or was it a natural reaction to a more complete understanding? "The rocky exterior you knew," Xyler continued, seeming to sense his internal conflict, "is a necessary adaptation for survival in a universe that often judges by surface appearance. It shields us from harmful frequencies, yes, but also from the psychic noise of beings who fear or reject what they cannot immediately categorize. And you maintain this shield until now? Why reveal yourself to me?" Elias asked, finally finding his voice again. "The resonant state is only possible when we encounter another consciousness whose thought patterns can harmonize with our own at a fundamental level. It requires deep trust and cognitive alignment. The crystal structure pulsed with slightly brighter light, what you might call empathy or understanding, though those terms are imprecise. And I provided that. Elias asked, incredulous. You saw value in my perspective despite my alien nature. You defended my dignity without expectation of recognition or reward. You trusted my judgment when conventional wisdom dictated otherwise. Zyler's form shifted again, creating an almost hypnotic pattern. These are not merely admirable qualities, Captain. They are resonance markers, indicators of a mind capable of genuine connection beyond the limitations of species or form. The implications were slowly dawning on Elias. This resonant state, does it allow for more than just a different physical appearance? Much more, Zyler confirmed. In this state, energy, knowledge, even consciousness can be shared at deeper levels. It is how KRYLL truly communicate, bond, create. But it also exposes us to harm from chaotic frequencies or hostile intentions. That is why the test was necessary. Elias sank back into his chair, overwhelmed by the revelation and its implications. Your people keep this hidden from the Federation? Not hidden, Zyler corrected. Simply not volunteered. Those who need to know. Those who could know, eventually discover. Those who would use such knowledge to harm. The crystalline structure briefly dimmed. They are never given the opportunity to pass the test. Before their conversation could continue, Elias's comm badge chirped. Captain, came Rivera's voice, there's been talk among the crew. People are saying the KRYLL has changed somehow. Is everything all right? Elias met Zyler's gaze, or what he interpreted as a gaze from the pulsing center of the crystalline form. Everything is fine, Commander. I'll address the crew shortly. News of Zyler's transformation spread through the ship like wildfire, despite Elias's attempts to manage the information flow. Reactions varied wildly. Some crew members were fascinated, requesting opportunities to observe the crystalline form from a respectful distance. Others reacted with increased wariness, avoiding any area where Zyler might be present. A few expressed outright hostility, suggesting that the KRYLL had been deceiving them all along, possibly with sinister intent. Lieutenant Katri from Xenobiology was among the first to approach Zyler directly. The crystalline matrix is extraordinary, she commented, circling the being with undisguised scientific interest. Is this structure common to all KRYLL, or do you exhibit individual variations? As unique as your faces, Zyler responded, the mental voice causing Katri to start slightly before she composed herself, though the underlying mathematical principles remain consistent. From security, Lieutenant Vasquez found himself reluctantly impressed. The way you interfaced with our shield systems during the crisis, was that capability related to this form? Yes, Zyler confirmed. In resonant state, our ability to harmonize with energy systems is greatly enhanced. I could sense the patterns of the storm as if they were music. Not all interactions were so positive. In the mess hall, Elias overheard Ensign Parker muttering to a group of junior officers. First it's walking around looking like a rock. Now it's some kind of glowing crystal octopus broadcasting into people's heads. How do we know it's not influencing the captain's thoughts? Elias intervened immediately, reprimanding the ensign and making it clear that such paranoid speculation would not be tolerated. But he couldn't help noticing the nods of agreement Parker had received before being caught. The captain found himself in an increasingly difficult position, maintaining discipline while also acknowledging that the crew's concerns weren't entirely irrational from a human perspective. The revelation of Zyler's true nature had disrupted the ship's social equilibrium, forcing everyone to reevaluate their understanding of the KRYLL. As for Elias himself, he spent more time with Zyler, finding their conversations deeper and more meaningful now that they could communicate mind to mind. The KRYLL shared insights into the philosophy of their kind, their reverence for structure, truth, and energetic harmony. Without the limitations of the speech synthesizer, Xyler's thoughts revealed a rich, emotional landscape that humans had never suspected the KRYLL possessed. A unique form of intimacy developed between them. Not physical, but a profound mental and energetic connection. Elias found himself able to sense Xyler's emotional states, catching glimpses of thoughts and memories. In turn, Xyler seemed to understand him on a level no human ever had, responding to unspoken questions and anticipating his concerns. Your species values physical contact as a means of connection, Xyler observed during one of their evening conversations. We find similar comfort in frequency alignment. Elias had smiled. Different methods, similar needs. Yes, Xyler had agreed, the crystalline form pulsing with a warm amber light. Perhaps not so alien after all. This period of discovery and tentative harmony lasted exactly 2 weeks before the Federation vessel, Resolute, appeared at the edge of the nebula, requesting permission to dock with the Wanderer's Echo. On board was Senior Inspector Eris Volkov of the Bureau of Scientific Security, a division of Federation intelligence that monitored potentially dangerous scientific discoveries and xenobiological threats. Volkov cut an impressive figure as he stepped aboard, tall, immaculately groomed, with sharp features and eyes like chips of ice. His manner was polished to perfection, combining formal courtesy with an underlying coldness that put everyone on edge. Captain Thorne, he greeted Elias in the docking bay, offering a firm handshake. Thank you for accommodating my unexpected visit. I understand you've made some fascinating discoveries in this sector. We're making progress in understanding the nebula's unique properties, Elias replied carefully, already wary of the inspector's true purpose. Indeed, Volkov smiled without warmth. And I understand you've experienced a rather remarkable transformation among your crew as well. A KRYLL xenogeologist in resonant state, quite unprecedented in Federation records. There it was, the real reason for his visit. Elias maintained a neutral expression. Xyler has been an invaluable member of our science team. Their expertise saved the ship during a crystalline resonance storm. I'm sure, Volkov nodded. I look forward to a full briefing. And of course, a direct meeting with the KRYLL itself. Themselves, Elias corrected firmly. Xyler is a person, inspector, not a... Volkov's smile tightened fractionally. Of course, a simple linguistic oversight. Now, shall we proceed? The formal briefing in the conference room was tense but professional, with Volkov asking pointed questions about the circumstances leading to Xyler's transformation. His particular interest in the mental broadcasting capabilities of Xyler's resonant form and their ability to interface with ship systems raised immediate red flags for Elias. When Xyler joined them, entering in full crystalline form, Volkov studied them with undisguised fascination that bordered on predatory. Remarkable, he murmured. And this form allows you to establish direct mental contact with humans? Can you demonstrate? It is not a performance, Xyler replied, the mental voice causing several officers to wince as it resonated in their minds. Communication occurs when there is purpose and consent. Of course, Volkov nodded, making notes on his datapad. And during the storm incident, you were able to manipulate the ship's shield systems directly through some form of energy transfer. The potential applications are significant. Following the briefing, Volkov requested private interviews with both Elias and Xyler, conducted separately in the ship's secure conference facilities. In his session with Elias, the inspector's true concerns became apparent. Let's speak plainly, Captain, Volkov said once the privacy shields were activated. You have allowed yourself to become entangled with an alien life form that can literally get inside your head. Have you considered the security implications? I've considered that Xyler has demonstrated nothing but loyalty and scientific integrity, Elias replied evenly. Volkov leaned forward. The KRYLL have hidden their true nature from the Federation for centuries. This resonant state could be a sophisticated form of mental parasitism for all we know. You claim it requires trust and alignment, but those could simply be the subjective experiences of someone already under influence. You're speculating without evidence, Elias countered. Am I? Volkov opened his datapad, displaying brain scans. These are your neural patterns from your last Federation medical exam 6 months ago. And these, he swiped to a new image, are readings our sensors took when you entered the conference room today, in Zyler's presence. Notice the unusual synchronization in the theta wave bands? Your brain is literally resonating at frequencies typically only seen in deep meditative states or certain drug interactions. Elias remained outwardly calm despite his growing anger. Has it occurred to you that this might be a natural, beneficial adaptation? Not all interspecies connections are threats. Your career has been exemplary, Captain Thorne, Volkov said, ignoring the question. Outstanding service record, commendations for first contact scenarios, respected by your peers. Which makes your current judgment all the more concerning. The Federation cannot afford to have one of its senior captains compromised, however benign it might seem. Is that a threat, Inspector? A reality check, Volkov replied smoothly. I'm here to assess a potential biological security threat. If I determine that the KRYLL presents such a threat, it will be transferred to a Federation research facility for further study. If I determine that you are compromised beyond recovery, that will affect both your command and the future of this entire crew. Meanwhile, in her own interview, Zyler was subjected to similar pressures, with Volkov probing for weaknesses or contradictions in her account of the resonant state. The Federation has encountered mind-altering, parasitic, and symbiotic life forms before, Volkov noted. Many appeared benevolent initially. What makes your resonance different from, say, the neural parasites of Denebia? Those create force dependency, Zyler responded. Resonance requires genuine compatibility and can be broken by either party. Can it? Volkov raised an eyebrow. Then you wouldn't object to being physically separated from Captain Thorne, transferred to our research division for, say, 6 months of comprehensive study, the crystalline being pulsed with darker colors. Forced separation after established resonance would be harmful. To whom? Volkov pressed. To you, or to the human you bonded with. Both, Zyler admitted. The resonance creates a two-way energy and biological link. Sudden severance could damage my crystalline structure and create severe neural feedback in Elias's system. Volkov smiled thinly. So the truth emerges. You've created a biological dependency that conveniently prevents us from separating you for proper study. How calculated? That was not the purpose, Zyler protested, the mental voice showing emotion for the first time, something like distress. The test is to find compatible minds, not to trap them. Resonance is a gift, freely given and received. A gift with consequences that happen to serve your purposes, Volkov noted coldly. How convenient. After the interviews, Volkov began quietly speaking with key crew members, particularly those who had shown skepticism or fear towards Zyler. Seeds of doubt were carefully planted. Suggestions that the captain's judgment might be compromised, that the KRYLL might be influencing decision-making in subtle ways, that careers could be affected by association with a potential security breach. When Elias and Zyler finally had a moment alone in the captain's quarters, the KRYLL revealed the full extent of what they had shared with Volkov. I told him about the biological implications of the resonance bond, Zyler admitted. The crystalline form dimmed to its lowest luminosity. He now knows that force separation could harm us both. I should not have revealed this vulnerability. Elias paced the room, processing this new information. It's not your fault. He's skilled at extracting information. He paused, facing the crystalline being. Just how serious would the effects be? You've never fully explained. Zyler's form shifted uncomfortably. For me, potentially catastrophic. The resonant form requires stable energy patterns to maintain structural integrity. Sudden disruption could shatter the crystalline matrix permanently. For you, the being hesitated. Neural feedback, similar to what your medical databases would classify as a stroke, though more focused in areas associated with empathy and connection. Recovery would be possible, but not complete. And he'll use this against us, Elias concluded grimly. He'll argue that the very risk proves his point, that our connection is dangerous and needs to be severed under controlled conditions, regardless of the harm. I've endangered you. Zyler's mental voice was heavy with regret. The test was meant to find kindred consciousness, not to put you at risk. No, Elias said firmly, reaching out to touch the edge of Zyler's crystalline form, feeling the slight vibration against his fingertips. You showed me truth. Volkov represents the fear and control that has limited the Federation's understanding of truly alien life. We need to find a way to protect what we've discovered. Together, they began researching Federation regulations regarding symbiotic life forms and special biological states. They discovered a precedent in the legal recognition of the Trill symbiosis, a relationship between host and symbiont that the Federation had ultimately recognized as a protected biological state with special rights and considerations. The Trill precedent could be our foundation, Elias noted. If we can document and verify the nature of the resonance bond, we might establish legal protection. We would need scientific validation from an independent source, Zyler pointed out, and time to present our case. Time, unfortunately, was something Volkov had no intention of granting them. The very next day, he invoked Emergency Protocol 718, declaring an undefined xenobiological threat situation that superseded normal chain of command. Citing Federation security regulations, he ordered Zyler confined to a specially constructed isolation chamber aboard his own vessel, in preparation for transport to a Bureau research facility. This is unacceptable, Elias protested during the tense confrontation in the ship's main conference room. There's been no due process, no proper scientific assessment. The assessment will take place at our specialized facilities, Volkov replied smoothly. With all due respect, Captain, your objectivity in this matter is compromised by your biological entanglement with the subject. My authority comes directly from Federation Security Council Directive 47, which cannot be overridden even by a ship's captain except by direct appeal to the Council itself. Then I'll make that appeal, Elias declared. By all means, Volkov smiled. The nearest subspace relay capable of Council-level secure communication is 2 weeks from our position. The KRYLL will be at our research facility within 5 days. But you're welcome to register your protest through proper channels. As Volkov's security team prepared to transfer Zyler to the specially designed containment unit, Elias found unexpected allies. Dr. Katry from Xenobiology approached him privately, joined by Chief Engineer Montgomery and, surprisingly, Security Chief Vasquez. This isn't right, Captain, Katry said quietly. From a scientific perspective, force separation could destroy a unique opportunity to understand interspecies bonding at unprecedented levels. And from a security perspective, Vasquez added reluctantly, the inspector is overstepping. I've reviewed the protocols he's citing. They're meant for hostile biological threats, not established crew members who've demonstrated loyalty. Montgomery nodded agreement. Not to mention the lad saved all our hides during that crystal storm. Federation owes him better than to be treated like a lab specimen. With their help, Elias formulated a desperate plan. While Montgomery created a diversion through a malfunction in the ship's docking systems that would delay Volkov's departure, Katry prepared documentation of the resonance bond's biological significance, and Vasquez quietly identified weaknesses in Volkov's security procedures. The confrontation came to a head in the cargo bay, where Zyler was being prepared for transfer. Elias, flanked by his loyal officers, entered just as Volkov was supervising the final adjustments to the containment field. This transfer will not proceed, Elias announced firmly. Volkov turned, annoyed but not surprised. Captain Thorne, you are interfering with a Federation security operation. This is your final warning before I add insubordination to the growing list of concerns about your fitness for command. I'm not here as a subordinate protesting orders, Elias replied. I'm here as the human participant in a legally protected biological bond, citing Starfleet Regulation 619.7 regarding the rights of symbiotically connected sentient beings. Katry stepped forward, activating a datapad. I've compiled comprehensive scans confirming the biological nature of the resonance bond between Captain Thorne and Xyler. According to the Trill precedent established in Federation Supreme Court Case 2367, B, force separation constitutes a form of biological assault on both parties. Volkov's expression hardened. This is a transparent attempt to manipulate regulations designed for recognized symbiotic species. The KRYLL resonance has never been classified as such, which is why, Vasquez interjected, Captain Thorne has filed an emergency petition for scientific and legal review before any transfer can be authorized. The petition was transmitted via emergency frequency to Starbase 117 20 minutes ago, with Dr. Cattry's documentation attached. This was news to Volkov, whose momentary surprise confirmed they had caught him off guard. Impossible. All communications are being monitored, not through the auxiliary emergency beacon system, Montgomery added with a slight smile. Funny thing about those old emergency systems, they bypass standard monitoring protocols. Been that way for 20 years, never seemed important enough to update. Volkov's face flushed with anger. This changes nothing. My authority comes directly from. He was interrupted by a sudden burst of energy from the containment field where Xyler was being held. The crystalline being had begun to pulse with intense light, the frequency increasing until it became almost blinding. "What are you doing?" Volkov demanded, shielding his eyes. "Stop this immediately. I cannot be contained against my will." Xyler's mental voice projected powerfully, reaching not just those in the cargo bay, but resonating throughout the ship. "Nor can my bond with Elias Thorne be severed without consent. The resonance will be heard." The containment field began to fluctuate wildly as Xyler's crystalline form vibrated at precisely the frequency needed to create destructive interference. Alarms blared as energy readings spiked dangerously. "Shut it down," Volkov ordered his security team. "Increase containment power." "Sir, increasing power will only accelerate the harmonic disruption," one of the technicians warned. "The field could collapse catastrophically." Elias stepped forward, reaching toward the shimmering barrier between him and Xyler. "Stop this," he called to the KRYLL. "You'll destroy yourself." "Some truths are worth the sacrifice," Xyler responded, the mental voice now strained. "The Federation must understand what it risks destroying through fear and control." What happened next occurred so quickly that witnesses later disagreed about the sequence of events. The containment field flared brilliantly before collapsing entirely. Xyler's crystalline form expanded in a burst of light that momentarily overloaded all sensors in the cargo bay. When vision cleared, Elias lay unconscious on the deck, and Xyler's form had contracted to a dense, pulsing core of crystalline energy. Simultaneously, throughout the ship and extending to Volkov's vessel, every communication system activated at once, broadcasting a powerful message, not in words, but in pure sensory impressions. Crew members later described experiencing Xyler's memories, the history of the KRYLL's hidden resonant nature, the deep connection formed with Elias, and most damning for Volkov, the inspectors. True intentions. Not to protect the Federation, but to secure the KRYLL's resonant abilities for weapons research. The psychic broadcast lasted less than 30 seconds, but reached far beyond the two ships. At the edge of sensor range, a Vulcan science vessel monitoring the nebula's unusual properties detected what they described as a structured telepathic phenomenon of unprecedented clarity and range. Their decision to investigate and document the event would later prove crucial. In the aftermath, medical teams rushed to stabilize both Elias and Xyler. The captain remained unconscious for nearly 48 hours, while Xyler's crystalline form had retreated into what Dr. Cattry described as a dormant preservation state, the once brilliant lattice structure now dim and condensed. During this critical period, an unexpected development changed the power dynamics entirely. The Vulcan science vessel Logic's Pursuit arrived responding to the telepathic broadcast they had detected. Captain Tvero, a respected xenobiologist in her own right, immediately recognized the significance of what had occurred and initiated contact with both Federation authorities and the KRYLL homeworld. Within hours, a senior attaché from the Federation Diplomatic Corps arrived via emergency transport, along with 2 KRYLL elders in their natural crystalline forms. The first time such high-ranking KRYLL had ever revealed themselves to Federation officials. Their arrival effectively suspended Volkov's authority, pending a full investigation. In the ship's medical bay, Elias finally regained consciousness, immediately asking for Xyler. Dr. Katri was monitoring his vital signs, her expression grave. Xyler is stable but deeply withdrawn, she explained. The energy expenditure during the incident was enormous. But there's something else you should know. The ship is currently hosting a Federation diplomatic envoy and KRYLL representatives. Your actions and Xyler's broadcast have created quite a situation. Elias struggled to sit up. I need to see them. Captain Thorne, came a melodious mental voice from the doorway. We are pleased to see your recovery. One of the KRYLL elders entered, a magnificent crystalline structure nearly 7 feet tall, pulsing with deep blue and violet energies. Unlike Xyler's relatively simple form, the elder's crystalline matrix displayed intricate, overlapping patterns that suggested great age and complexity. I am Elder Varix, the mental voice continued. What you and Xyler have experienced and revealed has forced our people to reconsider centuries of cautious isolation. The resonance bond you share is rare and precious, even among our own kind. The diplomatic proceedings that followed were unprecedented. Volkov found himself not as prosecutor, but as defendant, his communications and orders scrutinized by senior Federation officials. The psychic broadcast had revealed his ulterior motives, not merely to investigate a potential security threat, but to acquire and potentially weaponize KRYLL resonance abilities. Such actions violated multiple Federation ethical protocols. Meanwhile, Elias faced his own investigation, though of a markedly different tone. A special committee was convened to evaluate the nature of the resonance bond and its implications for Federation KRYLL relations. Dr. Katri's detailed documentation proved invaluable, as did the testimony of the crew members who had witnessed both Xyler's contributions and Volkov's overreach. Throughout these proceedings, Xyler remained in a healing stasis, their crystalline form gradually regaining luminosity but not yet full consciousness. Elias found himself experiencing occasional flashes of sensation and emotion that he recognized as echoes from Xyler, a testament to the resilience of their bond despite the trauma it had endured. 3 weeks after the incident, as Elias sat alone in his quarters reviewing the committee's preliminary findings, he felt a sudden surge of awareness that wasn't his own. Elias. The familiar mental voice was weak but unmistakable. He rushed to the medical bay, where Xyler's form was now pulsing with renewed light, the crystalline structure gradually expanding back toward its normal configuration. You risked everything, Elias said quietly, reaching out to touch the edge of the crystalline matrix. As did you, Xyler responded. The bond would not have survived otherwise. Dr. Katri, alerted by the change in Xyler's readings, entered with Elder Varix, who approached the recovering KRYLL with obvious respect. Young one, Varix communicated. Your actions were unorthodox, but have served our people well. The Federation now seeks true understanding rather than mere tolerance. Indeed, the incident had sparked a diplomatic revolution, with the KRYLL elders now openly engaging with Federation officials in their natural resonant forms. Centuries of misconceptions were being corrected. Special protocols were being developed to accommodate resonant communication, and several Federation scientists had begun collaborative research with KRYLL experts on the nature of crystalline consciousness. Volkov had been recalled to Earth to face an inquiry, his career effectively over. The Bureau of Scientific Security was undergoing a comprehensive review of its operating procedures, with new oversight mechanisms being implemented to prevent similar abuses of power. As for the crew of the Wanderer's Echo, their experiences had transformed them. Those who had initially feared or dismissed Xylar now sought to understand, while those who had supported their captain found their perspectives on interspecies cooperation profoundly expanded. The committee's final ruling came exactly 1 month after the confrontation in the cargo bay. Elias and Xylar were called before a panel of senior Federation officials and KRYLL representatives, held in a specially designed chamber that accommodated both verbal and resonant communication. Admiral Helena Chun, the panel's senior human member, delivered the verdict. After extensive review of all evidence and testimony, this committee recognizes the resonance bond between Captain Elias Thorne and Xenogeologist Xylar as a protected biological state under Federation law, establishing what will henceforth be known as the KRYLL human resonance precedent. This bond shall not be forcibly severed, studied invasively, or used as ground for discrimination in any Federation context. Elder Varix added, the mental voice reaching all present. The KRYLL Consortium similarly recognizes this bond as a sacred harmony, worthy of all protections and privileges accorded to bonded pairs in our traditions. The ruling continued with practical considerations. Given the profound nature of their connection and its diplomatic significance, Elias would not return to command of the Wanderer's Echo. Instead, he and Xylar were offered joint appointments as special envoys to a newly established interspecies resonance research institute, where their unique bond would both be protected and serve as a foundation for deeper understanding. In the days that followed, as they prepared for their new roles, Elias and Xylar found moments of quiet reflection aboard the ship that had witnessed their extraordinary journey. Do you regret it? Elias asked as they stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the nebula that had brought them together. Revealing yourself, risking everything, Xylar's crystalline form shimmered with warm amber light. The rocky shell I wore for so long served its purpose, but living behind barriers is not truly living. You taught me that sometimes the greatest structures are those we build through trust. And you taught me that seeing beyond the surface isn't just about tolerance. It's about discovering beauty and truth in their purest forms, Elias replied, feeling the resonance between them strengthen with each shared thought. As the Wanderer's Echo prepared for its next mission under a new captain, Elias and Xylar embarked on their own journey. Not as captain and crew member, not as human and alien, but as two beings joined in a harmony that transcended the physical boundaries that had once seemed so insurmountable. Their resonance had become a beacon, illuminating new possibilities for connection in a universe too often divided by fear of difference. In the vast emptiness of space, as their transport vessel pulled away from the Wanderer's Echo, the light from Xylar's crystalline form cast prismatic patterns across the viewports, a silent testament to a truth now recognized across the stars. That understanding begins not with the eyes, but with the willingness to see beyond what is immediately visible to the resonant structures that connect all conscious beings.